What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. I hope you enjoyed the fancy intro song. Gets everyone ready. I don't like the way my camera's set up today. You know, they're supposed to leave the settings the way the settings are. Otherwise, you don't point the thing down. You start looking too short. You start having too much of a gap between you and the top, and people start realizing, hey, that's a little person. But you know, hopefully they'll remake the Wizard of Oz at some point, and instead of going with the high pitched lollipop guild, they'll get some angry ranty Jews in there, and that'll be the new version of the Wizard of Oz. Anyways, welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. It's nice to be with you Wednesday morning. Look at this, at our regular time at exactly 11 a.m. with Dr. Metal Blood here to greet me for the live chat. I mean, don't you guys feel good about this actually starting at exactly 11 a.m.? I almost want to call it an episode. I almost want to salute myself, pat myself on the back, and go, we did it. This is an OCD dream actually starting. I didn't even have to wait for the quarter hour. I mean, we're talking about at exactly 11 a.m. on a Wednesday during the established time or Run Your Mouth happening. Dude, good things are happening in the world. You know why? Firstly, I went to my local coffee shop today. The guy put espresso in my coffee. So if you thought, generally speaking, I got too much energy on this episode, you wouldn't believe what happens on a double espresso within your cup of coffee type of morning. We're going to get after it. You know how much diarrhea I already flushed out of my system today? I'm cleansed. I'm cleansed. I had a kale shake, a double espresso in my coffee, and now we're here starting the broadcast at our normal time, 11 a.m. What's up? Nice to have everybody with us. I got any announcements? I'm not going to be at my Café Bohemia show. I got this date coming up in Florida, in Orlando, on the 21st. Someone want to take me to Disney World? I'm going to be in Florida for, I think, 4 hours. I think I'm flying in, doing my gig, and then flying out the next day. But if someone wants to treat me to Disney World for 4 hours in the morning, get hammered up in Epcot, or, no, the better one is the Orlando Studios. Watch some Spider-Man in 3D. All right, anyways, why don't we get into the news? Because I didn't really have any announcements. I didn't even really have a formal intro. I just wanted to waste some time so that, you know, some people could show up for the live chat, and then I could feel the connection with random internet strangers, including Eric John, pizza artist. Shout out Eric John, pizza artist. Showed up with the most delicious Rhode Island pizza strips. Someday I'm gonna convince Eric John, the pizza artist, to start making pizza strips with some. I'm feeling a little roast beef and some green olives, and they're gonna call it the Fire Sticks. We're still in contracts, negotiations for a cheeseless sauce, and but what's better about not maybe just olives, because the problem with the roast beef, even though I do feel like that would be a delicious mix, is you do want something that you can leave out. Just have in your car, put in a box, and eat while you're on the road. I ate the entire box of pizza strips that Eric John made for me and brought to me in Rhode Island, because someone gave me an edible in the parking lot after a long day of travel. And then I ate all the food. All right, let's, you know what, Roscoe? No, who's this? This is, Rogel G. You're no longer allowed on the show. I just pitched a delicious sandwich that would be undeniably delicious. I now invite you, random person, to join me at this pizza shop so you can realize how good of a baker Mr. Eric John, the pizza artist, is, and just how good my idea was based on, you know, what I tasted. All right, let's get into some news topics, because we do have a lot going on in the world. Don't want to waste everyone's time with absolute dribble. So let's go. Today's topics. Hit the fancy music, producer man. Da-da-ba-doo-ba-doo. Our business experts on why you shouldn't be keeping business records. Dude, if there's one thing to learn from the Donald Trump thing, is quit with the paper trails. Go get some cash or Bitcoin right now, stash it under your mattress, and if you end up in a situation where you got to pay off a hooker, just pay cash. Who's keeping a paper trail on hooker payments? Don't keep business records. The entire thing was for falsifying business records. So don't have business records. Why are you having business records to end up in these situations? All right, next up, with the Donald Trump Stormy hush money payments blowing up, will Donald hire the Clinton fixer to just kill these women the next time? I mean, possibly that. I mean, just look at it from a practicality standpoint. You know, women floating near Epstein's Island can't tell no tales. It's just practical at that point. I mean, if you're trying to be above board and pay $130,000 for a mediocre blowjob from an over-the-hill porn star, and just for her to keep her mouth shut, she's already done the blowjob. She didn't even need to pay her as it was. You then realized, oh my God, she's going to talk about my little tiny pecker and the color the distortions because I'm not allowed to get naked into tanners. And you just realize, you know what? What's it going to cost for you just to pretend like this never happened? And they say 100, then they get out there and they don't pretend like it never happened. They just get out there and start talking about everything that happened. That's why, if you're going to learn anything from Stormy Daniels, it's to kill your hookers. We're on YouTube right now, so I'm not trying to say don't sleep with hookers. I feel like that's the most practical thing. If you're going to have a practical takeaway, that's probably it. It's very similar to the Louis joke about returning pedophile kids. Sorry, Louis, didn't mean to steal your joke. All right, moving on. When will we see the court reenactment of the Donald Trump story Daniels golf course romantic evening? I'd like to see that, like they used to do the crime scene reenactments. I feel like you'd see that on whatever channel was next to E or something like that. But let's see a crime reenactment, or imagine that in court, and then the jury's like, all right, guilty or not guilty, just make it stop. I don't want to hear anything more about this. But I'm surprised that Stormy Daniels hasn't even shot the porn. I mean, this lady actually needs to apparently pay back Trump for legal fees. The whole thing's not really working out too good for her. So maybe that could be the moneymaker, the same way they did the nail and Palin. And remember, there was that brief moment in time where Lisa Ann, remember discovering Lisa Ann for the first time? Oh, that was a good 2 years. Kids, if you're first hearing this, you never heard of no Lisa Ann's. Big old mommy titties. You better go check that out. Remember Nail and Palin? Well, can we get the Stormy Daniels Trump thing, but with the actual, get Stormy Daniels as Stormy Daniels, and then you get some fat guy, and you paint him orange, and now you got someone to play Donald Trump. Easy peasy. And then lastly, Trump's response about the Karen McDougal payments, because apparently Stormy Daniels wasn't the only person that was being paid off. He also had this Karen McDougal lady getting paid off, and so of course Trump responded to that one. Yes, okay, I even spent taxpayer dollars on that one, but we can all agree, high five, jury, okay? How you supposed to turn that down? Pussy like this will keep you refreshed for the next 6 months. This is how you stay out of wars with Russia. It's by having sex with women with nice abs like this. Everyone can respect that one. Even this guy who's running the New York City, is it the DA? Is it the AG? I don't know what his formal title is. But while he's letting all these people off, while all these people are robbing bodegas, causing crime in New York City streets, and he's going, we can't devote the resources to pursuing crimes like these. What we need to do is put security guards in jail, because if you're going to win a fight against a guy who comes into your business with a gun and then you do your job as a security guard and man just gets shot in the stomach, take the gun away from him. You know what we need to use our resources on? We got to prosecute that guy. But the person with the gun robs a bodega, we better let that guy back on the streets, because we got a team of 15 people working around the clock trying to figure out how I can make good on my promise to indict Donald Trump, put the man in cuffs, bring him in, and the best we can do is on falsifying business records on a hooker payment. That's the best that the guy can do. All right, let's take a couple comments because we've got more coverage. But before we do more coverage, we might as well leave this up on the screen for a little bit. Maybe it'll get us some press on YouTube. Maybe people will be curious to know, hey, what's that guy talking about with the hot lady? Because maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should get myself a big fat pair of tits for the episodes, declare myself a lady, and maybe that will bring us more coverage in the algorithm. But you people can help. There's a full 14 of you. So right now, if you go email that chain letter to your friends about how if they don't watch Run Your Mouth in the morning, your grandma is going to fall down the stairs and lose her liver, which you don't even need to make that claim. You know what? Live in the future. Celebrate being right. With every topic, well, what's the track record of rightness here? So correct on so many topics that YouTube is actually like, hey, this guy's an oracle. And he's getting things correct too far in advance. He's warning people of potential currency problems. He's warning people about experimental medical items a little bit too, I'm a little bit too far ahead of the market. So, you got people might have a friend. I know you don't have a lot of friends. I've hung out with you. You've come to the live pods. Some of you show up solo, which is fine. Run Your Mouth. Live podcasts and stand-up shows are a safe place for single individuals. Most of the things that I do outside of stand-up, I'm showing up solo. So, and I have drinks with the people in the crowd. All right, let's take a couple comments. We got Anything Goes. Oh, those porn stars. We've got Rogel LG. Some nice dark chocolate drizzle would be fine. What, on top of the roast beef? Who is this guy? I don't like this guy. All right. Evil Fandango. Lisa Ann, when she was younger, was so hot. No argument there. Dr. Meatblood. Karen or Stormy? I'm Team Karen. Yeah. Team Karen. All day. All day. Look at this sporty one. The other Stormy's a dumper. Rogel LG, that will protect you from the YouTube gods. Anything goes. Get bigger fake tits than that Canadian teacher. All right, that's enough comments. Moving on. We're going to get a call line soon. Once I redo the backdrop, it'll be more like old school morning radio, taking calls and yelling at people. This is from the New York Times. The Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg argued that Trump had gone above embellishing or misleading the public and through the hush money scheme had violated a number of laws to deceive voters. That payment was to hide damaging information from the voting public, Bragg said. How is it possible, if we're concerned about deceiving the American voters, that someone could be going to jail or in trouble or not allowed to run because of a payment of $130,000 for a blowjob that no one's denying happened? We all agree that the blowjob took place, that it was overpriced, and I guess as it is, everyone knows about it and nobody cares. So it's not even relevant information. But somehow this is more damaging to the American public than the Clintons paying for research to then say that the sitting president was a Russian spy and wasting 3 years of our lives on the president's a Russia spy story, or the big tech collusion that took the Hunter Biden scandal off of the internet in the months leading up to the election because they knew that it would at least shine a light on the Biden criminal family enterprises, or that at least Hunter is spending, money on hookers. They knew that that wouldn't look good. So somehow in the scheme of misleading the American public, Donald Trump's $150,000 hooker payment cover-up is worse than what the Clintons did to Trump and what the Obamas did to Trump with their Pfizer warrants, with the misrepresentations, with the Russia collusions, or what the big tech did when they took down all the Hunter Biden story and all those intelligence officials who said, well, that looks like it's a Russia thing. And then everyone turns around and goes, oh, well, the officials are saying that it is Russia. Everyone's pointing the fingers, game of telephone, and then deleting things off the internet. Let's read that again. That payment was to hide damaging information from the voting public. So wait. Is that a real thing? Is this a crime now? Hiding damaging information from the voting public? Because if that's precedent, I would think that the Bidens and Clintons should be in court tomorrow under significantly more serious charges. All right, what else we got? The charges, once again from the New York Times. They suggested that the Daniel payment amounted to an illegal campaign contribution, as covering up Trump's affairs might have benefited his 2016 campaign. And I like how it might have benefited because other people might have also been like, yeah, it's Donald Trump. You mean, wait a second, the guy who's on tape going, I totally grab women by the puss. That's how cool I am. I have so much money. I could just grab him by the puss. You think that guy, all of a sudden, what's going to ruin his life? I mean, the person that you've yelled and screamed is the most undignified human being of all time, and we literally have recordings and tapes of him being undignified that, I guess this might have, it also might not have. This is the best they can come up with, is that, it's a two-step process. First is the guy paid off a hooker, which is not a crime, but in this case, it might constitute a crime because it might have affected the campaign, even though it benefited him as an individual. And if he wasn't running, he probably would have made the exact same hush money payment. In this case, the hush money payment, since it could have contributed to the campaign and might have affected voters, he's in trouble. But also, at the same time, everything that the Clintons and Bidens have done in terms of keeping information from the general public, isn't that all of politics, is trying to keep damaging information from the public? But for some reason, Donald Trump's here. If anything, the guy should be sung for a hero for supporting over-the-hill porn stars who probably can't even make money with an OnlyFans. All right, let's continue. What else we got here? So here you go. This is the actual thing. They just repeat over and over that this was a falsifying business records in the first degree. They just kept coming up with incidents, 25 instances of falsifying business records in the first degree. First thing, are business records that important? Who the fuck cares about business records? So you're forced to keep the business records? This is how much the government loves paperwork. It's that they assign you paperwork, and if that paperwork's not perfect, oh, you're going to go to jail and you can't run for presidency because this was supposed to be perfect paperwork, and you falsified the paperwork. I don't even like doing paperwork. Maybe it's just sloppy paperwork. You think Trump likes sitting down and he likes doing good paperwork? We all saw that guy fucking Cohen, droopy dog, idiot, been hit with baseball bats in the face, gets out of jail just so he can eat noodles with his family. I mean, we're going to fault these guys as if they're falsifying paperwork. That's the world's worst crime. If there's one thing that the government needs, paperwork's like the Bible to the government. We need perfect paperwork. And when these people handed in their paperwork, it was clear there was, so I don't care what the Donald Trump paperwork looks like. It's not like I was investing in Donald Trump Enterprises. I understand falsifying business records if you're trying to pretend like there was a profit when there wasn't a profit. And then all of a sudden people are investing and then you basically stole the money from them. But falsifying business records, you know what the real story here is, that we need to simplify our tax code so that you can more easily just make your hooker tax payments. That's what we should be doing, is we should be making tax hooker payments tax deductible. Then you wouldn't run into all these problems people wouldn't have to rely about on their tax forms. These old hookers could be making more money. These billionaires can be getting themselves more regular blowjobs. And, I don't know how everything would end up working out better because of these policy implements that I'm making, but I think it would. And then, of course, Trump's just, no one's ever had it so bad in their entire life, okay? Nobody's ever been so mistreated where now they're forced to sit at their country club with everything paid for, with their richness, and not having to be able to can just eat milkshakes, but no one's had it worse than me, okay? That's why you should practically just donate to me, because no one's ever had it so bad ever. Fucking whiny bitch Trump. All right, what else we got on this? So Melania nowhere to be seen as Trump's post to Raymond Mar-a-Lago speech. And this is the one thing you got to feel bad for Trump about is, he can't replace women. He's not going to be able to get a new wife from Eastern Europe. It's not the same. This was a pre-Ukrainian war model where you can just fucking easily fly over there, land off your plane, and buy yourself a nice. So he's not going to be able to get a new one. Plus, he's older. He made an investment in this model in its prime. They don't make models like that anymore. Why are we ruining this guy's relationship? And do we really want this guy running where both his wife now hates him, and so he's not getting no blowjobs from his wife, and he's reluctant to go out there and even support old school prostitutes, hookers, OnlyFans stores, or porn stars, because apparently these women take no pride in their hush money payments. Where's the porn star union that's actually making charges against Stormy Daniels because they're like, you're ruining our entire profit industry? The whole thing is that we get famous on these videos, and then people who watched us when they were young end up making a lot of money, and then they want to spend a lot of money to be with us, but they want it to be on the hush. And if you can't keep it on the hush, you've ruined the entire market here, Stormy Daniels. I mean, that's really what the outrage should be. All these people out there picketing, yelling, hey, it's like color war. We're the pro-Donald Trump side. We're the anti-Donald Trump side. Well, we're the pro-Donald Trump side. Well, we're the louder anti-Donald Trump side. What we really need to hear from is this porn star union showing up and making charges against Stormy Daniels for ruining their side hustle. And I guess by virtue of the fact that Donald Trump is being held accountable for this, I guess we're also inherently admitting that he didn't steal the election, he's not working for Russia, hasn't committed tax fraud, and is, generally speaking, a nice guy, that the best thing we can get him on after years of going after the fellow is that he overpays for blowjobs, which as a Jewish person I am offended by. All right, and then last thing on the Donald Trump story is former president's intent to be a key issue. I think his intent was to not have this lady talk about it so that he wouldn't have to go deal with his wife, because the wife doesn't mind as long as it doesn't make the newspaper. When it makes the newspaper, you start being embarrassed because it showcases the fact that you married a wealthier man for the money when he came over and he paid you, and you're just kind of on the hierarchy of paid women for servicing the gross old man. And so it kind of blows up her spot, where even though she gets the best treatment, it's still kind of clear what their relationship is, and then it starts to feel kind of gross. So I'm pretty sure that was his intent. I don't think his intent was to, I don't know, mislead the voters about how he spends his money on prostitutes? That's the highest crime in American history, is that a president misled the voting public about their hooker crimes. All right, that's all we got on this one. Anything fun going on in the comments section? Evil Fandango, NDAs are standard procedure for the rich and famous. I'm okay with that. Dr. Meatblood, women hate competition. Dr. Eric John, pizza artist. At least Trump pays hooker like a normal person is sniffing the hair of 14-year-olds during photo ops. That's an excellent point. All right. FDA, moving on. But before we move on, before we transition, let's take a moment to plug our fine sponsor, Sheath.com. Home. Well, Kratom's home with the $6 kilo, which, go get yourself a kilo of Kratom. But when you're done doing that, you go over to Sheath.com and you get yourself the most comfortable underwear that's ever graced the balls, man. You use promo code RYM, you get yourself 20% off. So not to be too needy, but, go out there, tell your friends, rate, review, subscribe, go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, email people that they should be listening to the show because they'll get information sooner than other people, live in the future, celebrate being right. And then not only should you be doing all those things, but you should have your balls nice and cradled by a perfectly supportive shelf and a dick hole that you can put your wiener in so that everything's cool, calm, and separated. You get to feel good about your lives. Sheath.com, promo code RYM, get yourself 20% off. Got to get Robert back on for monthly business tips. Even though, did we miss March? I don't even know. But got to reach out to Robert, and hopefully I will compete with him again going up the Manitou Incline. All right, here we go. Next story, FDA plans to allow a second updated COVID booster for vulnerable Americans. So basically, we are recommending the COVID vaccines to people who are going to die anyways. That's it. That's the only people who are still going to be taking this thing. Federal regulators plan to authorize an additional dose for seniors and immunocompromised people in the coming weeks ahead of the introduction of a newly formulated booster later in the year. So if you're not going to make it anyways, you want to get yourself a booster, they do got to get them off the shelves and get themselves some profits. New York Times, New Zealand soccer team abandons white shorts citing period anxiety. You'd think you'd make that decision before it made it to the paper. You'd think that this thing could go through quite a few processes where people are like, hey, maybe that's not a good idea, and you wouldn't have to have a New York Times journalist covering it. But luckily, pretty soon women's sports is going to be mostly just played by men. So then you'll be able to have a time where women's soccer players are wearing all white because it's mostly going to be dudes. And here's what's going to be so great when women's sports is just dominated by men that couldn't actually play men's sports is when they're still complaining, how come we're not making as much as the men? And it's going to be because you guys are basically the male minor leagues of now uglier women who are just dudes dressed like women so that you could play a sport. But then somehow there's still going to be some money in it, which will really just be a dividend payment from the complaints of the earlier generation of women who complained, how come we're not making as much as men? And so there will still be somewhat of a market of it because they're not really going to be able to phase out women's sports completely when it's just men that couldn't compete in man's sports now playing women's sports. I mean, if you thought that women's sports was unwatchable, weird, and not sure why it was funded now, every once in a while it was on. You're like, all right, these women, they look kind of good, and you kind of watch it or whatever. But just wait till it's all actually men just complaining that they don't make as much as the men who are actually good at the thing. All right, and then we got one more story coming at you guys, and then that's it. I like this format. Well, we don't need to do full hour-long episodes. 23 minutes. You cover the news of the day, throw some jokes at the people, and move on with your lives. And then you feel productive. You go, hey, look, I got to run your mouth in. All right. Chinese spy balloon gathered intelligence from sensitive U.S. military sites despite U.S. efforts to block it. Remember that? When they were like, that was just a weather balloon. It's not a weather balloon. It's a Chinese spy balloon. It's a Chinese spy balloon. And there's so many balloons out there, we're going to have to take out people's science experiments. I don't care if it costs us $200,000 to blow up a walkie-talkie on top of a kid's balloons. Nothing's floating around in the skies. We're going to be the toughest administration on balloons. But listen, that spy balloon, there was no reason for there to be a spy balloon because they already have satellites. And the satellites can gather any information that the balloon come in. And when there were balloons, let me tell you, that Donald Trump presidency, there were even more balloons under his watch than there were under my watch. And now the latest story a couple months later is, yep, they got some important shit And we ignored it because, we just thought, hey, what are they even going to be able to do with that balloon up there? But it turns out that they did gather important information, but it would have been worse if Biden hadn't taken the non-actions that he had. Remember when he let it float around all the way till it got over the Pacific Ocean and then he took it down? Well, if he hadn't done that, somehow they would have been able to gather even more information and it would have been worse. You got to try and really do your part in terms of like working with the system on the bullshit that they're giving you. So we let it float around and they definitely got bad information and somehow got into the country over our airspace, took the information, but it would have been worse if somehow the actions that we didn't take hadn't been taken sooner. All right, that's our episode. Thank you for hanging out. I think we should be back Friday with another episode. I think other than weekends on the road, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 11 a.m. Maybe even if I have nothing to say. Maybe we'll just do it that way. Maybe we'll go the other way. Instead of holding out for quality episodes, we'll just, Monday, Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Don't matter. I'll get on. You think I can't do 20 minutes about how I got nothing at all important of any capacity? I could fill 20 minutes on, hey, I've got nothing of value to say at all. But that's our episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. Back, I think, Friday morning, if I don't get too hammered doing the Passover things. In which case, maybe Saturday. I don't know. One of the two. Back soon. New episode. Thanks for hanging out. Tell your friends. Support the sponsors. Get yourself some Yo Deltas. Cash is going to shit. So make sure that you've got a nice supply of Yo Delta gummies, which can get you super high if you eat the whole gummy, or you just nibble on it, and then you get yourself a nice medium amount of high. That's assuming you're over the age of 21, living in states where Yo Delta is legal. If you go to yodelta.com, use promo code RYM, you get yourself 20% off. They got other products. They got the vape pens, but I'm on a gummy kick. All right, that's our episode. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one. We're done. Show is over. Do other things with their lives.